Most people have heard of the stock market. You hear it on the news, you see the tickers flashing, and you might even have a retirement account. But if you ask someone on the street what a stock actually is, what they physically buy when they click purchase, almost nobody can tell you. Imagine a local coffee shop down the street. It makes a profit every month. Now imagine taking the ownership of that coffee shop and dividing it into 1 million perfectly equal pieces. When you buy a share of common stock, you're buying one of those pieces. You literally own a tiny fractional slice of a real operating business. This is very different from being a lender. If you loan the coffee shop money, like a bank does, they just pay you a flat interest rate, no matter how successful they become. But as a shareholder, you are an owner. If the coffee shop opens 10 new locations and profits explode, your slice of the pie grows right along with it. When you buy a stock, your money purchases a percentage of the business's actual equipment, inventory, and the cash flowing through its registers. In the 1600s, outfitting a merchant ship to sail across the world was incredibly expensive. Worse, it was exceptionally dangerous. Storms or pirates could sink a ship. If one merchant funded the voyage, that single loss would ruin them completely. The Dutch East India Company found a way around this. Instead of risking financial ruin, they divided the cost of the ship among hundreds of everyday citizens. If the ship sank, everyone only lost a little. But if it returned full of spices, everyone shared in the massive profits. This document is an actual receipt of fractional ownership from the Dutch East India Company, dating back to the early 1600s. You can see the formal ledger entries recording a citizen's ownership stake. This simple idea, sharing risk to share the reward, worked so well that it laid the foundation for modern global trade. By 1792, people in New York began gathering under a buttonwood tree on Wall Street to buy and sell these ownership slices among themselves. Eventually, that outdoor meeting grew into the modern New York Stock Exchange. The core function of the market hasn't changed in 400 years. It exists to shrink the risk of failure for the individual while allowing thousands of people to collectively participate in the rewards of human progress. When a small private company wants to build a new factory or hire more engineers, it needs cash. To get that cash, the company will offer slices of itself to the general public for the very first time. This event is called an initial public offering, or IPO. In 1980, Apple needed money to manufacture its Apple II computers, so they held an IPO. They offered shares to the public at $22 each. Everyday people gave Apple their money, and in exchange, they received a permanent slice of Apple's future profits. But here's the critical part to understand. Once that IPO is over, Apple has its money. If you want to buy a share of Apple today, you are not buying it from Apple. You are buying it on the secondary market. You are handing your money to another everyday investor who bought that share in the past and has decided they want to sell it. When you tap buy on your phone, your cash goes directly to another human being who no longer wants their ownership slice, and their slice goes to you. The company itself is completely removed from the transaction. Let's say you want to know how much a company is actually worth. You can't just look at the price of a single share. To find the total price tag of a business, multiply the price of one share by the total Nodora shares. That final number is market capitalization. This explains why a $10 share might represent a larger company. If the first company has 1 billion shares in existence and the second company only has 1,000, their total weights are entirely different. Sometimes, a massive, highly profitable company never holds an IPO at all. If the founders are making plenty of money and don't need outside cash to grow, they can simply choose to remain private, keeping all the ownership and all the profits for themselves. But for the companies that do go public, their market cap is the only accurate way to measure their true size and compare their success against other businesses across the globe. To actually buy these shares, you need a brokerage account. Think of a brokerage account as a specialized bank account. Instead of just holding your cash, it is specifically designed to hold your investments and connect you to the buyers and sellers on the market. When you're ready to buy, you have two main choices. You can use a market order, which tells your broker to buy the stock immediately at whatever the current price is, or you can use a limit order. This is like setting a trap. You tell your broker you only want to buy if the price drops down to a specific number you choose. And if a single share of a company costs hundreds of dollars, you don't need to save up to buy a whole one. Many brokers now allow you to buy fractional shares. You can invest $5 and own a tiny sliver of a single share. Modern technology has stripped away the old barriers to entry. You don't need to be wealthy or have a personal broker on Wall Street. Anyone with a smartphone can purchase a fraction of corporate ownership in seconds. Once you own a stock, there are two ways you actually make money. The first is price appreciation. If the company sells more products and becomes more successful, the business becomes more valuable. Because you own a slice of that business, your slice also becomes more valuable, and you can sell it later for a higher price. This chart illustrates the two engines of profit. On the left side, you see the stock price climbing over time. On the right side, you see the second way to profit, dividends. When a mature company has more cash than it needs to run its daily operations, it distributes that excess cash directly to its owners on a regular schedule. But prices do not move in a straight line. When economic reality hits or human sentiment turns negative, share prices can fall rapidly. Dividends can be cut or stopped entirely if the company struggles to make a profit. If a company fails completely and enters bankruptcy, it must sell everything it owns to pay back the banks and professional lenders it owes money to first. By law, the common stockholders are at the absolute back of that line. Usually, by the time it's the owner's turn to get paid, there is no money left. The possibility for your investment to grow over the decades is effectively limitless, but that massive upside is permanently tied to the very real risk that you could lose everything you put in. Looking at the big picture, the stock market acts as a bridge. On one side are the builders, companies that need money to hire staff and create new products. On the other side are regular people looking to grow their savings. The market connects them. When you buy a common stock, you're buying a real fractional piece of those companies. And as they grow, you share in their profits through the appreciation of your slice and the dividends they pay. The risk of loss is a constant reality. You should never invest the money you need to pay your rent or buy groceries next week. But when used patiently, buying stocks is one of the most consistent ways to build lasting wealth. Understanding how stocks work moves you into a new role in the global economy. You are no longer just a customer paying for products. You are an owner participating in the companies that make them.